So yesterday I took the bike to my most local track at Luddenham Raceway. It's a bit bigger than a go-kart track, but not a full-size circuit as you would expect for a superbike. It's probably best suited to lower capacity bikes like 400cc's or supermoto. But it was the opportunity to ride the bike and test the IMU after it's been replaced, and I just wanted confirmation that the bike was in fact working properly as it should before the problems that I've experienced arise. So that was a success. The bike ran correctly and everything operated as it should. So I feel like that box is now ticked. So this brings me to the end of my off-season riding in Australia, and in fact the end of this project. So I'd like to just do a little summary of what I've been through with it and some points I'd like to highlight. I've made a list of some good points and bad points that stand out for me through this process, and I'll start out with the bad so we can finish on a positive. So one thing that was obvious is Australia Post is poor. I don't know why, but it takes longer to get something from another state in Australia than it does to get something from the other side of the world. There's a severe lack of support from Honda Australia for racing. My guess is that their marketing strategy has moved away from racing and into other areas, so we're just losing a bit of that. Subsequently, there's a lack of people riding Hondas, and therefore there's a lack of parts and availability within Australia. And I think because of all the above, there seems to be a lack of information around about how to get the best out of a Honda within the Australian racing network. So then the final negative point, which is the only one that really relates directly to the bike, is the terminology that's used in the manual and like the abbreviations. And I'll give you an example. It'll say ABC needs to be connected to the EFG, and if you get 3 flashing lights on the dash, then that means it has worked, and it hasn't, and needs reformatted to the XYZ. And it's just, and I feel like the people that know what the abbreviations are aren't looking at the manual, and the people that are looking at the manual because they don't know what they're doing don't know what the abbreviations are, and the terminology is hard to follow. But you know, maybe that's just highlighting, you know, lack of knowledge on my behalf. But anyway, that's what stands out for me. So I think now it's best way to move forward is to focus on some of the good points, and to start with international posts. It's brilliant. It's amazing how quickly something from the other side of the world can arrive in Australia. It's just once it's arrived in Australia, getting it to your door seems to be a bit of a struggle. The build process for me seemed very straightforward. I've got quite I feel like a decent understanding of mechanics, but there wasn't anything that in the straightforward build process that was a particular challenge. It was just, I guess, applying time to the job. And if you had more time, even if you found it difficult, there wasn't anything that was a really difficult challenge. You would always be able to work through it. And I think that's a contribution from, you know, the way the kit has been designed and built to suit the bike and to suit common people being able to fit it. Another area that I found quite pleasant was how straightforward the electronics platform was to operate. I think everyone nowadays knows how to navigate through an iPhone or something similar, and I feel like you know, navigating through the options that are available in the electronics program is quite simplified and straightforward. Initially, when you first look at it, it seems a little bit confronting, but as soon as you sort of break down and realize there's only a few components that you need to really focus on, then it becomes quite easy to navigate your way through it. Another quite important point is that the bike's been very competitive just from bolting it together. I haven't had to spend a lot of time working on setup and trying to make the bike work in a particular window where it would be fast and working well. Seems to have been a fairly straightforward process. Bolt everything together, go and ride it, fine tune it a little bit, and I mean fine tune is in very basic stuff. So I've literally just changed the ride height a little to make it a little bit more on the front for Phillip Island compared to Sydney Motorsports Park, Eastern Creek, for example. I made the rear shock a little firmer to withstand the forces that you get at Phillip Island because they're long radius corners. And apart from that, maybe a turn of preload here or there, and that's the end of it. So I think the bike's been really competitive with very little input on the setup side. My next point, I think, is an extension of my previous two, is that you know, with the package being easy to navigate through and the setup being quite simple to get in the window, it meant that for most part, I've done all the work and preparation myself, and even running the bike at a weekend, apart from having some friends come in and help make the process a little quicker with getting tyre warmers off and refueling the bike and so on. For most part, I've done all the work myself against other teams that have got, you know, some at the times of up to 10 people working in a team. So I think that magnifies the fact that the bike is very user-friendly and it doesn't take a huge amount of work and people to make this bike a competitive package. And the final point I'd like to make is about the power and speed of the bike. Now, it's quite impressive considering I've made no internal changes to the engine. It's completely standard. Everything I've done is externally, and the bike's been super fast and superbly powerful against all the competition that I've had to race against here in Australia. So as I've highlighted, there's a lack of support network for Honda riders in Australia and the materials you need to build a bike like this. So throughout this process, I've obviously created links and a network of people to get parts and materials from. So if anyone in Australia is wanting to ride a Honda or has one already and wants to up-spec it or go racing, or has one already built like I've built and they've crashed it and they're looking for parts, reach out. I'll put you in touch with the people that I've become in contact with through this process, and we can collaborate and get more motorcycles on the track and more people happy with the bike and package that they've got. And so how do you get in touch? Well, any of the options you like, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, email address, any of the methods that you like to use or you use regularly, we're available in all those usual platforms. So if you just search for me, Josh Brooks, and send a message, we'll do our best to be in touch as quick as possible and give you the information that you need. Sadly, this brings us to the end of me bringing you details about this particular bike, because it's been sold and will go off to its new owner. But stay tuned, because in the next episode, I'll be back in the UK. I'll introduce you to the DAO Racing Honda team, and we'll go through the details of what it takes to bring the CBR1000 up to a standard capable of being competitive in the British Superbike Championship.